Wonderful to have you all here this evening. Welcome to our sixth Computing Education Research Seminar of 2025. I'm Jane Waits. I'm chairing the session today. And in this seminar series, we're focusing on teaching about AI and data science. And we're exploring research that examines what should children might or should learn about AI, machine learning, and data science, and what are the effective ways to teach these critical topics in schools. And today I'm very excited. I only met Netta quite recently. We were at a couple of conferences together. She's from the University of Oulu, and I attended a session that was about her research. And I thought, oh, we've got to have this on the seminars because I don't think it's something that we talk enough about, particularly in England. And it's about this idea of agency and how we can influence how students feel like they can actually make a difference in terms of the world and their lives. And she's going to be leading a seminar on how to foster transformative agency, which I'd never heard of until I met Netta in the age of AI. Netta is a professor in information systems and she leads the Interact Research Unit. Her work it focuses on this thing of empowering children to shape their futures, their digital futures, with a big emphasis, a particular emphasis on participation, ethics, and critical design. And I really do think that in England and other parts of Europe, in fact across the world, we've got a lot to learn. And I think that this is wonderful work. Recently, she's been particularly exploring how children engage with and critically reflect on emerging technologies such as AI. So, in today's session, Netta will introduce the concept of transformative agency and its importance in computing education. She's also going to give some examples for us of how we can support children in critically analysing and designing their futures with AI. I am very biased on this one, and I'm really looking forward to hearing Netta's ideas and insights. So, Netta, over to you.
I'm going to talk about this transformative agency, fostering that among children in the age of AI. And I'm coming from kind of northern part of Finland. It's sunny also here, quite warm. It has been for a couple of days. So very nice. Interact Research Unit, which I'm leading, it's about human-centered design, human-centered digitalization. We have been working with children for the past, let's say, 15 years, even more, doing participatory design with children. And let's say for the past 4 years, we have been working on topics relating to AI, ethical aspects, critical aspects, participatory aspects. So there are many other researchers, not only me, working on these topics. So I'm going to briefly present some of our projects. We actually have several more, but I'm focusing on some of them in this presentation. And a couple of words about critical, ethical, and empowering design. That's what we do with children. And we also do that utilizing AI. We are considering carrying out design relying on these traditions and addressing AI systems. And a few words about transformative agency of children, which is something we are focusing on in our most recent project. And I'm going to give you some concrete examples how we have tried to foster that in our projects. And it's ongoing work. We haven't even published all of that yet. Some of it is out there already. So here are two projects that I'm mostly talking about in this presentation. Both are funded by Research Council of Finland. And this Make a Difference project ended 23, and that was about critical design with children. Critical design is something that has been developed within design research community for several decades, but it hasn't been explored with children a lot. So that was one of our research challenges, to figure out together with children how to even do that with them. And we were interested in whether children started developing designer identities or maker identities. And during this project, we got interested in whether they started developing activist identities, critical designer, critical maker identities. So this project we have published already a lot on, and we ended up addressing this big societal problem of bullying. It wasn't originally in the project plan, but we extensively worked with the city of Oulu, where our university is also located. City administrators mentioned that this problem of bullying, which is prevalent in Finnish schools, and of course globally it is a problem in children's lives as well as adults' lives. They asked whether it would be possible to try this critical design out to address this particular problem, and we were happy to do so. So this 4-year project ended up together with children trying to tackle this problem of bullying, harassment, and discrimination. And this new project, which started last autumn and which actually now has carried out empirical work with children during one semester. During the spring, we have been working with children, one class of children taking ICT course. And then we have been working also with summer workers, 15 to 17 years old summer workers, who were kind of working for us and getting actually paid for the work. So this happened actually now during June, so we haven't even had time to analyze the data yet, but I'm presenting you some findings already, what we have from this work. So in this new project, we are interested in emerging technologies, such technologies relating to which we do not yet know what all will come out. They are in the process of making right now, but they are such technologies that you can anyway already see that they will have significant implications on our lives, on society, on many issues. So of course, artificial intelligence is one of them, generative AI, but we are also addressing other technologies, VR, robots, and so on. And we actually want children to come up with the societal problems they would like to address. But in the project plan, we proposed climate change, equality, bullying as potential topics we could be working on together with children. And we try to foster this transformative agency. Few words about this critical, ethical, and empowering design. This is underlying probably all projects we are carrying out together with children. I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with the Scandinavian participatory design tradition. That is emphasizing a lot people's right to influence their digital futures. So this tradition emphasizes that when you are developing computer systems for people, those people should be invited. They should have a voice and they should have a say what kind of computer tools they are using in the future. And this tradition was developing during 1960s and 70s in the workplace context. But it has been very influential also in children's computing education, for example, in Finland or in Denmark and elsewhere. And this is underlying a lot of our work. And for example, when we were addressing this problem of bullying together with children, Scandinavian participatory design was emphasized throughout the project. But like I mentioned, we have been also interested in critical and speculative design traditions, and they are in a sense different. They have been developing in design research community, and these type of approaches are very future oriented. The design outcomes can be very futuristic. Within these approaches, it might be expert designer, expert researcher who is kind of coming up with surprising, unexpected, very futuristic design outcomes, which can be provocative, very critical regarding the current state of affairs. So these approaches are using design to question current things and explore alternatives and consider how things could be different. So we have been exploring with children also this type of design approaches. Participatory design is heavily about letting people to influence what kind of technologies are designed for them, but critical and speculative design are very future-oriented explorations, how the future could be intermingled with design of different kinds of artifacts. Ethical design is something we also emphasize in all our projects with children. So we always, when we are working with children and designing some sort of technological stuff, we are discussing good and bad, right and wrong, considering technologies and especially their consequences. Important questions we think that should always be addressed with children in their computing education projects, as well as elsewhere. And empowerment is also something we emphasize heavily in our work. We, of course, wish to empower children to start shaping technologies in the future, but we also try to make it visible and try to invite children to try to empower also other children, consider also other children, not only themselves. And we emphasize that this empowerment should not only be about empowerment of individuals, but consider collectives, like how we could be empowering, giving more power and opportunities for children as collectives. And we are emphasizing this critical empowerment because mainstream empowerment is kind of about giving to the power weak a little bit more decision-making power. But this critical empowerment maintains that this is not empowerment at all, but empowerment should be encouraging those who are power weak currently to really combat the unequal power relations and start making a difference, changing the world themselves. So this type of aspects are something we are discussing with children and aiming to foster among them in our projects. Transformative agency, the theoretical basis is in cultural historical activity theory. I'm not going to go into detail in that, but basically you are interested in people's capacity to act. You are interested in people's initiative and commitment to transform the world. And this has been studied with adults in different kinds of, for example, work settings. But we are interested in fostering it among children. And the literature emphasizes that this should be seen as a collective process, and it should include always this expansive learning that I will elaborate to you soon. But this emergence of transformative agency can be visible when people start resisting things, when they start criticizing things, when they start explicating changes, what should change in the world, and when they start envisioning changes in the world, or show commitment to action, or actually start taking action in the world. So this, of course, individuals can accomplish this, but preferably collectives should be accomplishing this, showing resistance, criticality, taking action to transform the world. And with children, we try to foster this expansive learning, and we feel that in all computing education projects, this expansive learning is something that should be aimed at. So expansive learning, according to this theory, it is about learning and exploring something novel, something unexplored, that is seen as important, and that is collective process. You are doing it together. And this expansive learning highlights the importance of learning for life. So also with children, we try to emphasize, for example, if we are collaborating with their ICT teacher doing project together with them, we try to emphasize to the children that you are learning for life. This is not learning for the ICT class, but preferably, hopefully, you can make use of everything we have done here in your everyday life and in the future. And expansive learning should enable learners always to learn something novel regarding the topic they are addressing, but also of themselves and of them as a group or collective. And they are using different kinds of tools for changing things in the world. So preferably they are also learning novel things about those tools. And in our project with children, we have invited children to address topics that are close to their heart. So we have started our work with children so that they have been exploring and discussing what they are passionate about, what are the things that they care about. And they have come up with their project topics in this manner. And of course, during this process, we really wish that they learn a lot about this topic that they are addressing. But we have been introducing them these novel emerging technologies, showing those that they are tools that they can use for social good. They are tools that can help in dealing with the topics they have selected themselves. So we of course hope that they learn a lot about these tools, their potential, but also their limitations during our work. And in the middle of this, we wish that they learn a lot about themselves and also about their potential agency to use these tools to address these topics. So this is what we are right now doing with these different child groups. And of course, this is a long-term process, and we plan to continue the work with the children later on. But now Finnish children are having their summer vacation, so we are not working with them right now. So active, critical, reflective mindset is something we underscore. We try to invite children to be critical, question things, resist things, critique things in the world and regarding technologies, in both senses. And we also try to invite children to envisioning changes into the world. And that, of course, in our case is now intertwined with use of AI tools. In our previous project and also in the current one, they can also consider other kind of technologies, but AI is very prominent in this work. And we hope that the children start taking action towards the change they have envisioned, and we actually invite them to take some steps in this respect, but we haven't gotten very far in this respect yet. But we wish that in our projects there are clear changes and impacts in the world, something more long-lasting than usual lessons. Like if children in computing education projects, they might create some throwaway prototypes or come up with some nice concepts, but the projects end there. In our case, we try to generate something more long-lasting, although we acknowledge that this is a true challenge. And luckily, we have now 4 years' time to explore these aspects. But I'm going to soon show some examples, what we have been doing, what kind of methods we have been using. So one thing, of course, has been for us to come up with ideas like, what are the problems that children care about? In the previous project, it was this bullying proposed by adults, which we were working on, and that was very nice project. But in this new one, we really want to concentrate on things that are close to the children's heart. But we also wish to acknowledge together with the children that these problems, or most problems in the world, they are complex. They are not easy to solve, and like bullying is one of them. And what children selected this year in this new project, for example, they wanted to address racism or impacts of AI on them and their future. They wanted to address animal rights. They wanted to address very complex issues and topics, also mental health related, anxiety related issues, war related issues. So they are worried about problems that are wicked ones. There are no easy fixes, and we want to discuss that with them too. So we have also wanted to sensitize children with these emerging technologies that can be used as tools for addressing these problems. They can be used as tools for social good, but we also want to make it visible that these tools definitely also have limitations. So we want to raise criticality among the children. So here is one example what we have been doing with large language models with children. This has been actually happening during June, so we haven't got publications or results out yet, but our researchers are right now going through the data and analyzing it. So with the children, we wanted them first of all to sensitize with these large language models. We were discussing how, for what purposes they are using those, and they were prompting those. And we wanted the children to consider bias and ethical aspects. So we ask children to try these different tools and see whether they could encounter some bias. And actually the children were very capable. They were comparing several tools and pointing out a lot of bias and ethical aspects in the outcomes. They were very capable and very critical in that sense. And we were discussing with children that this is one form of algorithmic auditing. Right now, there is a lot of literature also on this algorithmic auditing, and we pointed out to the children that this is algorithmic auditing is very systematic activity that adults are doing in real world regarding these tools, and they are reporting on the findings and achieving changes in the world through this auditing practice. So what the children were doing was very small scale thing. And of course, it should be much more extensive in real world, but basically it is possible to do some prompting if you do it systematically and have enough of evidence. You might be able to show like bias or problems in the outcomes. We also invited children now in June to creating these large language models. So we invited them to train those. That was also small scale activity that the children were doing, and they were checking out the outcomes and seeing that most of the outcomes with very limited number of iterations were kind of nonsense, but also they were generating surprising results. So interesting publications will be coming out of this activity, but I think it was very important experience for the children to really get to see how these are created and how these are kind of developing, seeing the limitations in the middle of the process and understanding that how people are creating these tools. They are not appearing from somewhere, but people are involved. We have been also inviting children to envisioning and critiquing AI futures. Like I mentioned, we have been inspired by these very future-oriented design methods. And as an example here, I'm mentioning best and worst case scenarios. We have asked children to come up with ideas for AI systems and consider what will be their consequences in the world in best case situation and in a situation when everything falls and everything fails. Regarding quite similar activity with another child group for us was this creating advertisement videos and anti-advertisement videos. In this case, with different child groups, they also were brainstorming and coming up with AI systems solving some problems that they had selected they wanted to address. And then they were first creating these advertisement videos, like what kind of perfect tool they have envisioned. It can be used for solving this and that, and it has this and that functionality. But then we asked them to create these warning or anti-advertisement videos, pointing out all the problems that should be considered and negative consequences and so on. We have also asked children to engage in activism so that children have come up with some ideas for apps, AI tools for solving a problem, and then they have been advertising those apps inside their own school for other pupils, and they have been creating campaigns around those app ideas. In that case, they were about tackling of bullying. And we have also asked children to come up with theater performances. Also, in this case, child groups were creating ideas of technological tools, in this case, tackling of bullying again. And then they were creating these theater performances to other children in their school. They were showcasing what kind of technological solutions they have ideated, how those can be used, and they were mobilizing other children in their school to start discussing the problem of bullying. So we have been trying out many different kinds of tools, design methods with children. So here is the overall design process that we usually follow with children. And this is, we actually have this also on our website because we have created material for teachers to utilize, but we haven't yet updated this based on our previous explorations this spring. So it's a little bit older version that we currently have on the website, but we actually have teaching material regarding more than half of these activities, because now we haven't updated the most recent things, but I would say that for most of these activities, we have already teaching material for teachers in English and in Finnish, so they can utilize in their work in schools, computing education work in schools. And we emphasize that if you plan to really implement everything, it took us, let's say, 10 weeks easily. It takes several months. Well, of course, depending if you can concentrate for 1 or 2 weeks entirely on this, of course, you can implement a lot. But what we have been doing with teachers, it has been only like 2 classes per week or something. So in that case, it takes several weeks, several months to implement everything. So you can also utilize some of these activities and then continue with something a lot later in the process. Not everything needs to be implemented. This can be meaningful kind of wholes without following the entire process. But in our projects, we have started with children sensitizing with emerging technologies, sensitizing with agency-related aspects like having discussions with children, interviews, surveys. We have also created this type of technology friendship book activities for younger children, or children have been interviewing adults. And we have been exploring with these novel technologies, like with these large language models and chatbots. And a few words I'm going to say about those soon. And cultural probes, I'm going to also present to you soon. We have been exploring with children. We have been sensitizing children with the problem they have selected to address. They can be creating personas and scenarios, like stories of the problem, who are involved, the people, what is happening, what all is intermingled with the problem, like animal rights or racism or whatever their problem is that they want to address. Children have been doing literature searches, conflict of motive analysis. Then we have engaged them in creative ideation process after these sensitizing activities. So the children have been envisioning a future, faraway future or more close future, and considering what kind of tools there could be, how AI could be solving the problem we are addressing, and different kinds of brainstorming activities. And we also have invited children to be critical towards their own design so that they consider these best and worst case scenarios or create these ads and anti-ads, or they are discussing what kind of values we have embedded into our design. We have this laddering interview method we have explored related to that. And children have been creating prototypes, low fidelity prototypes, interactive prototypes. Some kids have been even coding something or creating these large language models. And then these theater activities or activism activities, mobilizing their school community. And in the end, we have had group discussions, individual interviews, different kinds of reflection activities. So here is an example of a cultural probes method that we have used to explore what could be the problem that the children even care about. So this is totally unplugged activity. We have started with the children, so everyone gets this type of white stone to carry in their pocket for 1 week and kind of keep a diary. Like, we have asked them to imagine if this was a magic stone that could solve problems in the world, where would they like to use it? What are the problems they would like to tackle with this magic stone? And based on this activity, the children actually have been able to form groups and come up with these topics that they really care about. Exploring novel technologies with children. For example, we have now a robot that the children have been programming. So they have been able to see the limitations of now. There is only so much it can do, but also see the potential, hopefully, of it. We also have been exploring different kinds of metaverse solutions with VR classes. And here is also a picture of this social media machine developed by a project in Finland. It's actually publicly available, this social media machine. With it, teachers and children can explore like how social media solutions are collecting your data and how they are processing your data, profiling you, and starting to feed you content that tries to get you addicted more and more. So this social media machine is one tool which can help children to be critical and understand how AI and data-driven systems are working. And this is something we have been using now with children in our project too. But regarding these large language models, like I already was explaining to you, children were allowed to do prompting using these tools that they wanted, and they seemed to be familiar with so many of them. And children were exploring bias, and they were able to point out a lot of bias in these large language models. They were also able to show that some of these are nowadays very careful not to provide biased outcomes to an extent that the outcomes were kind of ridiculous, but other tools were less so. So very different outcomes were also generated by the children. So we pointed out that this is small-scale algorithmic auditing, and they can start doing it whenever if they are suspicious, and they can try reporting the outcomes as well of their auditing practice. But these baby large language models were also created, and they were first using this Alice in Wonderland dataset, and then invited to utilize this Project Gutenberg datasets. And they were critically exploring the outcomes generated and really seeing that a lot of iteration is needed in training these large language models. So we didn't, the groups gained very different results, and we were discussing those between the groups. So very interesting discussions, raising children's criticality and understanding of these large language models. And whenever we have been exploring with children these novel technologies, we have always asked them in their group to consider, be it robots, be it virtual reality, be it large language models, whatever they have been exploring, how this technology could address the problem you have selected. But we have always asked them also to consider what kind of new problems are coming out, because we feel that it's very important not to overemphasize technologies, STEM. You need to also invite children to be critical to extensive digitalization and all the problematic consequences of it. So we try to emphasize both positive and negative aspects. And regarding this complexity of the problems that the children have been emphasizing, this conflict of motives activity has also been very interesting among the children. So we have used Instagram addiction as an example, but then children have been invited to do the similar kind of analysis regarding their own problem that they have selected. So the children have been considering who are the stakeholders related to the problem they are addressing, like racism or animal rights or various kind of bullying in school or whatever the problem has been. And then they consider these different stakeholders and what kind of motives they have in relation to the issue at hand, and what kind of conflicts can be revealed between them. And we have been discussing with children regarding Instagram as a, company perspective, parents' perspective, educators, children's peers, influencers' perspective, and various kinds of conflicts, so that they also show criticality towards the problem and towards any technological solution that is introduced. For envisioning AI futures, we think these miracle discussions have been very beneficial as a starting activity, so that the children have been invited to consider the problem they are addressing, for example, animal rights, to consider that a miracle has happened overnight and the problem has totally disappeared from the world, and how do they recognize it, and how do other stakeholders recognize that the problem has disappeared. So this activity has been a very nice activity before they start thinking about the technological solutions in particular, so that they start dreaming about a desirable future. So this is very future-oriented activity utilized in design research, and we have very positive results regarding this. I'm not going to now go through the children's design ideas, but just showing you that they have been coming up with various kinds of robot-based ideas, and these are examples of their low fidelity prototypes they have been creating to tackle bullying. And here is a long list of apps that the children have ideated to tackle bullying again, including AI, most of them, not all of them. For critiquing these AI futures, we really recommend these best and worst case scenarios. So whatever design, whatever prototype the children have come up with, be it AI-based or large language model, whatever is integrated, we ask children to discuss amongst themselves, like, what are its consequences? What are the consequences in a perfect world? How about if everything backfires, if everything fails? So these discussions have been very beneficial. We have asked them to draw and describe these discussions in different ways. So here are some drawings from 12 years old children, I think. So they came up with this idea of electric shock robot, which is very violent solution, and we think it was very useful to discuss with this group the potential worst case scenario also. And like I mentioned, we have also, for critiquing these AI futures, we have invited them to create these advertisement and anti-advertisement videos of their AI solutions. And we think this has been very useful activity also because children are very fluent in creating these videos. We have shown them as a priming activity. We have shown them some funny videos, old ones, but also current ones, which are really trying to sell and convince you on something. These have been examples for these advertisement videos, but then also these warning videos, like what kind of negative consequences, for example, relating to some medicine or something like that. I think children have been very inspired by our video examples and very eagerly started consider these videos regarding their own AI ideas that they have come up with. And just couple of words, we have been organizing these theater performances also, so that the children have been showcasing their prototypes to their school community. They have been showcasing how their prototype is working to tackle the problem they want to tackle, and raising discussion amongst their peers. And these have been very powerful experiences for the children, because this type of performance on stage, it is a powerful experience for the performers, but also the participants have been invited to discuss the issue. So this has been very beneficial also for the audience members. These performances have been very interactive. And here are just some pictures from our projects where children have been engaging as activists, also showcasing their app ideas to their school community and raising discussion about the problem they want to address. And this activism, I think, has been even more beneficial. Our data shows regarding children and their agency. This type of activism exploration has really emphasized to the children that they should take action. It's not okay to just mind their own business, but they really should try to change the world if there is something wrong. Of course, there are many things that they cannot affect. So I'm now ending my presentation, and I hope there was food for thought in my presentation and for your discussion. I would, of course, I'm very interested in how you see you could integrate this type of ideas into your teaching practice, how you could try to foster transformative agency of children. Do you see it as important in computing education and as well as elsewhere? And do you see what kind of methods and ways you could utilize in your own practice, following our insights or coming up with something different? Because of course there are millions of ways to do it. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Nessa. That was amazing. Can we all give Netta like a round of applause? Our next seminar is on Tuesday, the 8th of July, and it's Sarah Schoenbrut and Stephen, who's there, and Martin Frank. They're going to be presenting research and strategies on how to demystify AI in the maths classroom. So kind of more very targeted, and they're exploring machine learning concepts with high school students. And again, I was very lucky. I saw Stephen and Sarah and Martin at a conference and was blown away by the work that they're doing. And I feel very fortunate that they're going to come and present to us. I don't see them presenting very often on in these kind of contexts, the same as Netta. So we've been really lucky to persuade them to come. So please, find out more about the research seminars, have a look at our website, and you can turn your mics off now, your mics on and just say goodbye now.